On this episode, we talk with polyglot Stu Jay Raj about the Thai vocabulary used when treating pain and disease.
So if you want a fascinating but slightly morbid peek into how the Thai language is used to diagnose medical conditions, you'll dig this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, this is the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 and, thanks to a wrong pronunciation of a single Thai syllable, once spent an entire year asking an old woman in my local market for a giant penis instead of an onion on my weekly shopping trip.
Well, you know, shit happens. What can you say? And I met Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 19 years ago. Fell in love with counting my steps to make sure I don't end up drenched in sweat during the hot season, and I never left.
That's right. That's when they ask you, like, "Oh, what's your record? How long can you run for?" You're like, 600 steps. Like, it's not about kilometers or anything, right? It's
right. All right. We want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Richard Lingner, who supports us at the show shoutout level. Stick around after we're done talking with linguist Stu Jay Raj to hear why Richard is our official patron saint of Bangkok routines. Yeah. Before we start, a huge thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos and videos of our interviews, discounts on swag, which you can find on our website, and various other things that aren't available to regular listeners. But best of all, patrons get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and random topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about the quote-unquote ass end of tourism, and some stories from our adventures with super cheap hotel rooms, as well as a very poorly worded poster from the Thai government that does its best to upend our position from last week that Thais have been extremely successful avoiding any racist tropes in the face of this pandemic. To become a patron, head to bangkokpodcast.com/support.
Yeah, all right. Well, on this episode, we are excited to speak to our good friend, Stu Jay Raj, a well-known Thai linguist and polyglot who speaks around 15 languages, give or take. It's been a while since Stu was on, so we're psyched that he was able to join us here, and it's especially relevant because we get into a really interesting and sometimes a little bit gruesome discussion on the Thai language and how it's used to diagnose pain, label disease, and describe certain things that go on with your body. He also gives us some great insight into where these words come from, how they've evolved over the years, and of course, some discussion on the language people are using to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. So here is my interview with our good friend, Stu Jay Raj. All right, well, we are super happy to have on one of my old friends from way back in the day, back when we used to sit at Bug and Bee Cafe in the afternoons on Silom and work on our computers as freelance hacks. And he's been on the show before, and it is a pleasure to have you back. Stu Jay Raj, welcome back, man.
Thank you, Greg. The old Bug and Bee.
You remember that, right? Yeah, we used to go there in the afternoons and just we got distracted by all the girls walking around and chatting to each other.
That would have been early 2000s.
Yeah, way back in the day. I don't think he's even there anymore. I don't go down to Silom that much these days. But anyway, it's good.
No.
It's good to have you back. And for those who don't know, Stu's been on the show before. Stu is a noted polyglot and linguist and language instructor / educator who is very, very knowledgeable about these kind of things. Speaks Thai as a Thai person does, at least to my ears. And is an all-around cool guy. So we thought that it would be fun and a tad morbid, but these are the times we live in, to have Stu on to talk about the Thai vocabulary and language and rules and things like this around sickness and disease.
It's very appropriate.
It is appropriate. And like I said, it's a little bit morbid, but it's what everyone's dealing with now, and the better you communicate these things and the more precise you are, the better and faster these things will end. So that applies to every sickness, I think. So I've always been a little bit I mean, my Thai language vocabulary for medical things is really poor, even more poor than my regular Thai vocabulary. And I think I've told this story on the podcast before. I had food poisoning months and months ago, actually probably about over a year ago now. And I went to the hospital and I looked up on my dictionary and I looked up the term for food poisoning and it gave me ahan ben pit. Is that approximately right?
อาหารเป็นพิษ
Ahan
pit.
pit. Right. Okay, pit.
Yeah.
So I went to the thing and I was like, I can do this. And I thought that I could probably cut out the ben. So I walked up to the information desk and I said, he said, what's wrong? And I said, ahan pet, which is duck food. The guy looked at me like I was a mental case. So that's where I'm coming from.
But that's like, actually, I was thinking of this years back. There was a famous Tylenol commercial in Thai. I think it was Tylenol. It was for painkillers, paracetamol.
Okay.
And they've got this Falang guy walking into a pharmacy, ร้านขายยา, and he went in there and he thought he was proud he could speak Thai, and he said he wanted to buy อยากซื้อยาลดไข่
Okay.
And so Thai is the tonal language. The word for fever is kai. So we actually call a patient คนไข้ a fever person or somebody who is sick is kai. You can hear it going down. But the word for egg is kai. And it's also the word you use for testicles. So lot meaning to diminish or reduce. So lot laka is to drop the price. So lot kai would be to reduce fever, which would be paracetamol. He went in there and he said he wanted to buy อยากซื้อยาลดไข่ and they're just looking at him thinking, what? We don't do testicle removal here.
That's even more embarrassing than my duck food crack.
Yeah, but that it just goes to show, though, too. It's the being brave enough to speak the language is one thing, but sometimes things like tones can make a big difference.
Yeah, and I still contend to this day that Thais played the ultimate practical joke on foreigners and making, like, if you, a lot of times in my experience anyway, if you say the word wrong, it doesn't mean something innocent. It usually means something filthy or offensive, and you get yourself in all kinds of problems. But the thing I was looking up earlier about English, and a lot of people know that the English medical terms that we use and are very common come from Latin or Greek. And that seems to be sort of, it started because they wanted to formalize it and standardize it across many different languages and cultures. And I got this from Wikipedia, and this says, medical terminology has quite regular morphology. The same prefixes and suffixes are used to add meanings to different roots. The roots, prefixes, and suffixes are often derived from Greek or Latin and often quite dissimilar from their English language variants. This regular morphology meant that once a reasonable number of morphemes are learnt, it becomes easy to understand very precise terms assembled from these morphemes. Does that describe the Thai way to describe sickness?
Similar. And in Thai, it's not just sickness, but anything that's in the realms of academia will tend to be a Sanskrit/Pali word. Whereas everyday speech would be what Thais would call a Thai word. Sometimes those Thai words might have other roots. Sometimes they might have Chinese roots, or sometimes they might even use some kind of morphed form of an English word.
Okay.
But for the academic side would be the Pali or Sanskrit word. And yes, for names of then types of doctors, say gynecologist or hematologist or any of these, just like we use the Latin, you would have a Sanskrit version of it. But when speaking, especially when speaking about pain, while there are words to describe these kinds of things, normally you would speak to the doctor just in pretty much regular Thai words.
Okay.
There are examples. Like for example, the word for tooth is fun.
Yeah.
Right? So, and the Thai word for doctor is mo. So that's mo with like a rising tone, mo. So if you said mo fan, which a tooth doctor,
that makes sense.
And it's perfectly acceptable in normal speech. They have a mo fan, but the proper word for doctor, for dentist, would be a tantapad. So the word tanta from Sanskrit, the same root that we have for dentist.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
And the word pad. Okay, so pad comes from the word Patia will actually, Patia, Vidya, you might know, we have the word Wittiyo, Tanon Wittiyo, and wit. So anything to do with knowledge, Wityalai for college, Mahawityalai for university.
Right.
So this Vitya means knowledge. Okay, so somebody who has a knowledge is a Vadya, which we get the word pat. Okay, of course in Bali this turns into that. So somebody who has knowledge, pat over tanta, teeth, is a dentist.
Interesting.
So that's the and basically all the words are broken down like that. You can also tell, or you can tell people will see what words people use because there are, for example, sutibat. Suti means to be born. So a birth certificate you could either call sutibat or baiket. Baiket would be a daily standard term for saying bai, meaning like a piece of paper or a sheet.
Right, your birth sheet.
Your birth sheet.
Right.
But the proper word would be sutibat.
Interesting.
The card, patra, like we get a leaf of your birth.
So would these words, would then one be considered sort of more polite and one be considered sort of less polite depending on who you talk to? Like if you were talking to some kunying or something like that, should you use the more official old school word, or could you say by good?
If I was with somebody of that level, I'd probably say sutibat. Anytime you want to sort of put on airs or sound good, if you know the good term for it, it's probably good to use it.
I was on a bike ride last week, and I'd stop at a temple to go to the bathroom, and there was a monk there. And instead of saying Hongnam, I said Sukha, which I was very proud of myself because I figured I would err on the side of caution.
Yeah, and exactly. And it's like that. There are times, though, when you're just with your friends and everything, and if you use these long words, they'll think, who the hell are you? What are you trying to do? There's a funny one, and there was a whole movement to try and make Thai words so you don't use English words or other words or Sanskrit-based words. So, for example, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but for software, they, instead of saying software, they would say lamun pan, which literally means wares that are soft. If you use the word lamun pan, though, with any Thai, they'd laugh. They know what it means, but nobody on this planet actually uses lamun pan in regular conversation.
I see. I remember reading a long time ago, and I think maybe this was something we talked about with Ricker, who has come on the show previously, another fluent Thai speaker who's been on the show many times, great friend of both you and I. And he was saying that there is an actual Thai body that tries to sort of herd the Thai language into an agreeable direction. Like when there's a new term or a new thing that needs classification in Thai, they come out and say, this is the official Thai word. This is how it's spelled, and this is how it should be used. But sometimes it doesn't stick.
Yeah, the Royal Institute, they do that. I've actually spoken with those guys too. And there's some great people and famous linguists all on the board that do this. So a lot of respect to them. Some things, however, just makes me sort of cringe. And sometimes you can't fight against reality. The reality, people are going to find an economic way or the most popular way to say things. So
Sure.
the language, like any language, is always changing. There are people who are trying to keep it in place, but this is a beautiful thing about any language. It's something that's living and always changing.
Right. Well, let me ask you something about pain, because when you go to a doctor in English and they say they poke you somewhere and they say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much is this hurt? And there's really not a lot. There's like throb or sting or burn. What happens when doctor asks someone in Thai?
Oh, funny you should say this. I was just at the hospital yesterday because I was in a lot of pain. And they actually have a whole brochure done up in Thai and English on how to describe pain to doctors.
Oh.
But it just, and like even how to describe it in Thai. But basically, in Thai, when you're talking about pain, most people would know two key words would be dep and buat. Okay, so if you've got a headache, you'd know the word buat hua, hua being head, so
right.
buat hua. If I said dep hua, it would mean that you have some kind of like a pain somewhere on your head. Normally a physical pain maybe where something's good, but it's not the headache when you say I've got a headache. So there's a difference between dep and puat. Dep would almost be like a more acute pain, maybe, where puat is like a
like a pressure. Like when you have to pee, you say puat chi.
Yeah, puat chi. So your bladder is in a position internally that you are puat. Okay, you wouldn't say jep chi. To say jep chi, maybe somebody's peeing on you and it's hurting. Or
what about if
maybe,
you have like gonorrhea? It burns when you pee.
Maybe that could be then jep, but you'd say jep ton chi. It's painful, or you might use something like sap. Now that's another word for pain. Sap is a stinging pain sensation. Okay, so if you, for example, if you got sunburnt, you would not say dep or puat. You would say sap. That's ab or sap. So you get, if you've got any kind of this stinging pain, it would be sap. If you got, I guess, had like bee stings all over you, it would be sap. It wouldn't be dep or puat.
Interesting.
So there are these different pains. There's also another interesting form of pain, and you will always hear it. So that pain that you feel if you've been, it's kind of like a lethargic pain, or you've been working all day and your muscles are just aching. And for COVID, it's actually relevant, because if you're feeling this lethargy where your body's just, not functioning, that's เมื่อย. And so normally when you เมื่อย with a more M, so มอม้า
เมื่อย
เมื่อย with a falling tone, มอเอยไม่เอกเมื่อย. So when you, for example, so the solution to เมื่อย is that maybe you want a massage, or you need to lie down, or you need to sort of that's this เมื่อย pain of like muscular exhaustion, which is it's very common. And then there's one other word, common word for pain. So we have dep, which is like this pain, as opposed to puat, which is a woo pain.
The vocabulary of sound effects is it transcends borders.
Yeah, and actually, well, the word in Thai, this pain, you call it whoop wap, because it's whoop whoop wap wap.
Oh, really?
It's like a whoop wap pain is like this pulsating pain.
Throbbing
so
pain,
you could have, that's the word, throbbing. Whoop wap. You could say it's like whoop whoop. So when somebody เวียนหัว, so if you've got a dizzy spell, you could say it came on you like whoop. It's like a wave coming onto you. And you feel your head going whoop whoop. So there's a lot of onomatopoeia done when you're describing symptoms to doctors. Another word there, though, is siao. Now, siao is a word that you will get in many different occasions in Thailand. Siao it can be positive or negative. If you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, or you've been to a special massage or something, the word siao there means pretty much sexual arousal. It means like this sort of excitement, tingling. Right. This tingling is probably a good thing, siao. But it has also a bad side to it. So you could have bad tingling. For example, you go on a roller coaster, and when you do that big drop, siao.
Interesting.
Or just the fear of going on a roller coaster, or you've got an exam tomorrow. That would also be siao.
Someone described it once to me. They said it can be like if a girl rubbed her fingernails along your back, that would be siao. But it would also be siao if the same girl pulled her fingernails down a chalkboard. So that chalkboard is siao, and it's like really bad. So siao is really good word to know. It can also be a lot of fun to use, and as you could imagine, like a lot of jokes might use this word siao having its double meaning. Right. Yeah. Right. So while we mentioned the elephant in the room, and that being COVID, all this talk about vaccines and antibodies and things with the blood and muscles. Are there any unique or new phrases or ways of talking about this that Thais are dealing with?
With as far as COVID-19, like again, they don't say the full word COVID-19, COVID. I guess the word for mask. This is an interesting one, and I've just noticed it, especially since this. The word in Thai for mask is nakak.
Nakak.
Okay? Nakak. So na face, kak is like covering up here, the mouth.
Oh.
So nakak is a mask, or they're covering up the face. Nakak, kak.
Okay.
However, I've been noticing lately, and even people in our household and outside, much to my dismay, because I'm an Australian and I say mask, many Thais are saying mac from the word mask.
Yeah. I went into 7-Eleven yesterday. I had to go into a 7-Eleven and I was out and I forgotten my mask at home. And I sort of poked my head in and I said, me, and I didn't know the word. So I just assumed it was some variant of mask. So I went, me, mac, and I covered my face and they got it immediately. They said, oh yeah, you can buy them here.
So that's actually becoming the common word for it. Whereas before, always people would use the word nakak. Maybe nakak is too long for this. And you're hearing all over the world, people are saying, wear a mask. Oh, what a mask. And so
mask.
Mac, Mac is now coming into regular terminology, which is funny because Mac is also a word that's in common terminology for McDonald's.
Really?
So จะไปกินข้าวที่ไหน? กิน Mac เนอะ? We're going to go.
Well, it's an Australian thing
Mac.
too, isn't it? You call it macas.
Yeah, going to Macca's, I seen what you done.
What would you call a Halloween mask? Like if I put on a clown mask or something?
Again, I would always call that, say, nakak.
Really? Interesting. Okay.
And of course, you put it on.
But things like antibodies and vaccines, those are all well-established words and terms that people are just sort of using again in this case.
Oh, okay. So here's an actual... if you're talking about, say, antibiotics, pati chiwana. So have a look at this.
Okay.
Pati. You might know the word pati said, to oppose. So pati is anti or anti. Okay. Chiwana, you know the word chiwit from the word jiva, where we get the word jive in English.
Jive?
Jive. Yeah, jive from jiva, chiwa. So that's where the word chiwit chiwa, life. So pati chiwana, anti little life forms, which is antibiotics, because biotic.
Really?
Yeah. So it's pretty cool that you can see a lot of Thai terminology actually has Indo-European roots, which we can actually kind of comprehend from English.
Anti-little life forms, that's what it means?
Yeah, but chiwana. So chiwana is like bio, life. So anti-life form, pati chiwana.
That reminds me of one of my favorites is the word for aquarium is Pipitapan Satnam, which basically means water animal museum.
Yeah. Pipitapan museum, Satnam, animal nam, water. Now that's an interesting word though, because sat, Pipitapan is of course from a Sanskrit base word. Sat from the word satawa, meaning animal. But nam is water, right? If they really wanted to make it a Sanskrit word, you might say samud, like samudra for ocean, or chon from the word jala. Like, you know the word chonburi?
Yeah.
You'll see it spelled cholo, which actually from Sanskrit is jala, meaning water. So it's like water town, chonburi.
Oh, okay.
So there are Sanskrit words for these kind of things that are common in terms that you see in Thai. But they just decided to call them Satnam.
Okay. So is it fair then, is it a correct analogy to say that roughly speaking, Sanskrit is to Thai medical terms what Latin and Greek are to English medical terms?
Yeah, I would go further to say Sanskrit to Thai academic terms.
Okay.
Is like Latin and Greek to that. And because it's the same in English, like we get more like terms for all types of the whole world of academia, biology, or
even legal terms like pro bono and things like this.
Yeah, and it's not just because they liked you too. Sorry, Australian humor there.
Boo. And while we're talking about things that are dealing with the body, I've always been amused by the fact that Thais use the word ki for shit in so many different ways. Ki hu, ki ta, ki fan for like earwax or eye gunk or plaque.
Yep.
I've always thought that was. I wrote a blog post about it a long time ago called "Ties and Shit," and a few people wrote back and they said this is not correct. And I'm like, well, I mean, it seems to be.
This is a funny thing because we have a newborn baby at home too. There are a few words. So, ki is like your bog standard word, no pun intended, word for poop.
Right.
So, like ki tak would be splatty shit. Am I allowed to say that? Splatty poop.
Yeah, splatty poo poo.
Okay. Splatty poo poo, ki tak. Whereas tong sia would be diarrhea. You have a broken stomach. But ki tak literally means diarrhea. Okay. Splatty poop. Side note, this is when you get into kampuan. If you say kak ti, to slap the Indian, is code in Thai for ki tak, splatty poop. So if you didn't want to say ki tak, you would say hit the Indian, kak ti. But that's another thing. But okay, so we have ki tak. But when a baby does a poo, and you don't want to use this harsh word ki, you would use the word or
right?
Because this is you bang that's the sound as they're pushing it out.
My wife has corrected me very harshly sometimes because we've been out in public, and when my son, who's almost 6 now, when he was younger, and I would say like, do you have to key? Do you have to key? When I was out, in the playground or at the mall or something like that, my wife would be like, no, say it's much softer.
Yeah, it's like, could you imagine in English, and I'm in a nice restaurant and I say, love, I'm going to go and take a shit, eh? That's
I guess so.
That's probably the feeling that she would feel having her husband say that in front of a bunch of Thais.
I get it. It'd be like me looking at my kid and going, do you have to take a shit? You got a shit?
You
this little 5-year-old.
Take a shit? Yeah. Make sure you wipe your ass well. So
people would be
there's
horrified.
a euphemism. But there's another word. There are other words. So you have chi and ki, your everyday words for poo and wee. But then you have uchara. Uchara is the Sanskrit-based word for to defecate. Okay. So when you go to the doctor, they won't say ki. They'll say uchara.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
And then for urine is then pasawa. So you would say, you actually see on signs, like a urinal for a guy is called a ti pasawa. When you go to the pototo, like the service station on the side of the road, it will be ti pasawa is the actual urinal, as opposed to the sukha or the hong nam that you have. You would go in and do your number 2.
Interesting.
Our household, though, we have our own code, which I'm giving to the world now. So we can't use it anymore. So, like, if you want to turn something into a noun, an abstract noun, so, like, for example, gaya pap, gaya means to move, gaya pap is like the act of moving or physiotherapy. So we call it uchala pap, is the act of doing a defecation. So we made up a word, uchala pap, but then we will simplify it to just the initials, paw. So if we're out in public, I'll just say paw. Okay, we know what it means. Or
nice, that's great.
Pasawa pap means I need to do a number 1 instead of saying pochi.
Nice. That saves you from embarrassment and from me being corrected by my wife. We should come up with something like that.
Yeah, uchala. And it sounds funny too, though. If you're going to speak highly, if you're going to use a high term, you don't want to miss it. So you wouldn't say, beng uchala. You want, or you say beng ki is a normal thing. But yeah,
this is something I have to deal with when I go on bike rides, because I have to tell people that I'm going to ki jakrayan, not ki jakrayan, because one means ride a bike, the other one means pass a bike.
Same thing again. Ki jakrayan. Yeah, and it's the same as the kai, that same tone difference.
Right. You see, if you say the wrong tone, you don't say something like yellow flowers instead of green flowers. You say something horribly offensive and dirty, and it makes you look like a filthy pervert or something like this. Thai is tricky, dude. It's a tricky language.
But it makes life colorful, and you make the mistake once and never again. So it's a good memory peg too.
Yeah, let's just say I'm never saying the word sea urchin incorrectly again when I go and step on one and go to the doctor because.
Yeah, and that's another thing and too, like people think that Thais, you get that word, kai for egg, okay. Have you ever heard that Thais won't say, for example, the word, time? They can't say time. It will be tam. Okay.
Tam. Okay.
Tam. Or they won't be, or say a word like white will be why.
Mm-hmm.
White wine, why. The N doesn't hit it at the end. So there's this thing, like in Thai, where we have open mouth, closed mouth. So if I've got a vowel, we call it a diphthong when two vowels are stuck together. So I. Do that a minute. And so open your mouth, ai. Your mouth closes down for the E, right? Or same thing, awu. You see your mouth going open to close.
Okay.
In the Thai throat, when they get to that closed position, the back of their throat's actually closed as well. Ow. And so it's physically impossible to put another letter after that. So you cannot say the word time where this M's coming in after the E. Because if your mouth's gone from open to close, your throat's closed down. So...
But why can we say it?
We can say it, but the Thai, because it's just this Thai sound system that their muscles have locked into since birth, and they've never been trained out of it. You get people who speak very clear English, but they've put a lot of work into changing their muscles. So the word, that's why you get white wine turns to YY.
So it's just a matter of teaching your muscles to move in a different way that they're not used to moving.
But they don't realize they're not used to moving, and some people will even filter it out. So if you say the word time, they won't even, like their ears won't even hear the at the end. It'll just hear a lot of people whose name is Mike. They won't, you won't get the k. Now it's because we've got these types of vowels. So we have closed to open. So you have, for example, open to closed, closed to open, iya. So you could say, for example, wien, because that's iya, closed to open. Yeah. So you could put an N at the end. Iem, because it's closed to open, your throat's still open, and so it can put a letter at the end. But if it's open to close, so instead of ia, ai, because it's coming down, the Thai throat closes, no letters there. So don't get frustrated if you say a word and you say time, and they're saying tam, or wine, and they're saying why, tam. They've actually dropped the I out altogether, and they just turn it into a single vowel. So time must have been something that was used so commonly. So it's what time.
You know, I think the first instance that foreigners usually come up against is the word or the letter ngongu, because we don't have that ngongu at the beginning of a word, that ng sound. Yep. And I think that's the first one that we learned to master, and that sort of makes a great example for us. Like, oh, there are words here, there are sounds here that just don't exist in my language, and I have to learn how to say them.
Though it does exist, just not at the beginning. That's actually, I did a clip years ago on how to pronounce ngongu, because it's in Indonesian, it's in Cantonese, it's in a whole bunch of languages, especially in this part of the world. Vietnamese, Nguyen, the most famous common Vietnamese surname, Nguyen, is Nguyen.
Right.
This is a common sound, and we can say it. It's just becoming conscious of it. But that clip is actually the most popular clip I've ever put out there. People trying to learn to say the initial sound.
Interesting. You know, when I was in high school, I went to school with a girl from South Africa, and it took her months to teach me how to say the word Mxosa. It's a Swahili word. I forget what it means, but you pronounce it ngoja. And it took me months to learn how to say that. Ngoja.
That's actually the language, Xhosa, the
right.
name of the language, And you get these, I think there's 3 different classifications of click there.
Let me just deal with the Thai language first before I get into the clicking. Well, Stu, I know you've got a newborn baby at home. Congratulations on that. I don't want to keep you too much longer because you probably have to go to deal with some or whatever your shorthand was. But if people want to learn more, where can they find you online?
Cracking Thai Fundamentals, so the book and the course. So you can get it at jacademy.com. So that's J, the word academy, but with the initial A is J, jacademy.com, my middle name, J.
Okay.
Jacademy.com, or just Google Cracking Thai Fundamentals. I've been doing that since 1999, 2000. The book came out a few years ago. If you're in Thailand, order it via Jacademy, and I can actually EMS it out to you because I've got copies here. Don't have to pay the postage from Amazon. If you're outside of Thailand, you go on Amazon.
Right. Well, thanks, man. And I've said it before, Stu, if you're not familiar with Stu, definitely look him up online on clips on YouTube. Stu has a really unique, helpful way of looking at language in Thai and learning Thai in a way that a lot of places don't. And you do a really good job of helping people see the Thai language in a different, interesting way that you just don't get anywhere else. So it's really helpful talking to you. And thank you so much for coming on again.
And to say that Thai is the most logical, beautiful system.
Yeah.
There's nothing mysterious about it. As long as you understand that. Thais don't learn it that way, but it is. And that's what I've tried to explain.
Right.
Once you see the logic, you understand the system, it's beautifully easy then to get things right.
It's like math. It all fits together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg.
You just need a good teacher. All right. Thanks, man. We'll put the links in the show notes. And if you haven't yet, please check out Stu online. He's very helpful. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, sir. And go take care of your kid.
Thanks, Greg. Bye.
Dude, I mean, you and I have talked before about these freaking polyglots, man. It's tough. Yeah. It's tough to handle. I mean, it's like for guys like you and I who don't speak Thai well, it's painful just if you meet a foreigner who just speaks English and Thai. That's painful enough.
Right. And then you meet Stu and is like, oh, you speak 50 languages. Oh, and you're handsome. Oh, and you're really cool and nice. Great.
Right. Yeah. You know, we got to get, I know this was your interview and you focused on the medical stuff, but I've always been fascinated about, I know I can read about it, but we know so many Thai language experts. We got to get someone to talk about just the history of the Thai language because it's Chinese, right? But then it mixed with like, I presume Sanskrit and Pali. Is that just because of Buddhism, or is there some other reason? Do you know?
I don't know. We need like a timeline, right? Like what came first, the Sanskrit or the Thai? You know?
I think that Buddhism made it to this part of the world about 2,000 years ago. So Buddhism is only about 2,500 years old. Mm-hmm. But I think it made it to this part of the world like maybe 500 years later. But obviously Thai people were already here. So the Thai people, T-A-I, are from southern China. But then it must have just mixed with Pali and Sanskrit and then, you know, Khmer and Burmese. It is kind of I mean, it's funny because like Thai and English are so different. But in a way, they're both examples of these languages that are just a mixture of many other languages.
Right. They just thiefed the best and most sensible parts of other languages that sort of bled into each other and emerged as their own thing. We should have, next time Ricker comes to Thailand, we should have him and Stu on at the same time.
Yeah.
We should have a big old, like, Thai-a-thon.
Yeah. I mean, I think I want to do a show on just the history of the Thai language and how Thai became Thai.
That'd be fascinating.
I guess that's a little bit academic, but our listeners can handle it.
We have the smartest listeners ever, man.
Heck yeah. I mean, they like our show. They must be smart.
Yeah, I read it in a bathroom stall. It must be true.
Of course. Anyway, thank you to Stu for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was really cool to talk to him again. And he's busy right now because he's got a new baby at home. Congratulations on that, buddy. And thanks again. It's great to talk to you. And hopefully Stu will come on again very soon because it's always a pleasure to have him. And our listeners really enjoy it too based on the feedback that we get. So
For sure.
Good times. All right, let's get into Love, Loathe, or Live With, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we just have to learn to live with no matter how we feel about it. And this week, man, it is all about Ed.
All right, Greg, picture this.
All right.
You order a pizza. It shows up. But always, along with the pizza, is going to be a plastic bag filled with various condiments. And it's usually like a thick, it's like a lot. It's like a thick pack of like ketchup and chili and who knows what it is. Do you ever do anything with that packet of condiments that comes with pizza?
I totally do. Yeah, I immediately throw it in the garbage.
All right. Okay. So you and I are on the same page. It's actually, and again, listeners, you might not understand what we're talking about because in the States, I feel like pizza just comes. I don't even remember there being any condiments. Maybe a packet of like some type of chili powder, or some type of spicy. I think occasionally, I don't know. I can't.
Really?
I feel like American pizzas. I don't think
Dude,
they come with anything. I don't think they come with anything.
It's been literally 20 years since I ordered any pizza from in Canada. So my memory's faint.
I don't think American pizzas come with any condiments.
No, I don't remember anything. First of all, they sure as hell don't come with ketchup because if you whipped out a ketchup bottle and put it on pizza in Canada, like you'd be stomped by your friends.
You would be for sure. No, I mean that's whole separate. There's no doubt that the ketchup is a loathe.
Like in Canada, be like, we love pineapple, but ketchup is a bridge too far.
Right. But it's just, I don't know. I feel almost bad. You know, I feel bad almost every time I order a pizza that there's this fairly substantial bag of condiments that just goes immediately in the trash.
Yeah, and I used to save them for a while, but after a while,
they build up. Ketchup, it's like they built up, you know.
Yeah, when you want ketchup, you don't go to the little packets. You go to the bottle in your fridge or wherever it is, and after a while, you've got like a 2-liter tub full of these stupid ketchup things.
Now, am I crazy?
Every time I get it, I always regret. Like I should always say like, oh, and also don't send any ketchup.
That's right. Now. Usually in Thailand, it's ketchup, but it's also usually some chili powder or some type of chili flakes. I feel like
some basil.
Yeah. It's just sometimes they throw in some basil. But I don't know, man. It's like I like to just order the pizza like I want it, and so I just throw that shit away immediately.
Yeah, me too. I would sort of lean towards loathe, but I mean, it's ketchup packets. I'm not.
Well, it's just
I'm not dedicating so much of my life. It is very wasteful.
Doesn't it feel wasteful? I feel like. With all the ketchup I've thrown away a lot of ketchup over the years.
Yeah, I've come to live with it, but I loathe the fact that they force me to throw it out because...
All right, I think we're on the same page. So we're kind of like live with halfway to loathe.
Yeah. What's that old Mitch Hedberg joke? Mitch Hedberg, the genius comic whose life was cut short far too soon, but he said like I ran out of candle holders, so I ordered a cake or something like that. This feels like I ran out of ketchup, so I ordered some pizza.
That's right.
Anyway,
right.
It's a live with to the power of loathe.
Leaning to loathe. All right, we're on the same page. Cool.
Yeah, good one.
All right. So as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Richard Lingner for lending us his support at the show shadow level. And Greg, what did you find out about Richard?
Well, Richard sounds like a very interesting guy. Check this out, Ed. He works at a museum in Singapore. He is from Boston, and he works at a museum in Singapore. That's pretty cool.
That sounds cool to me.
It sounds cool to me, especially since I haven't been to any museums in Bangkok, which is shameful.
Except the Pat Pong Museum. You spent a lot of time there.
Well, I was at the Pat Pong Museum. That's right. I think that's even more shameful. As good as the Pat Pong Museum is, it's I should probably head to the National Museum.
That's the last museum you've been to in a long time.
First and last, yeah. But Richard says he loves Bangkok. He's been to Bangkok, he says, at least 15 times. And in that 15 times, he has gotten his best life routine worked out to a T. And he says he always stays in Chinatown. He stays at the Shanghai Mansion. You ever been there in Chinatown?
I know what it is, yeah.
It's a beautiful, gorgeous old hotel. And he watches a live jazz band on the patio every night after grazing up and down Yaowarat Road.
Nice.
And he spends his days drinking iced lattes, riding the riverboats, and hanging out at museums and taking photos at temples.
Damn.
So
he's got it all figured out.
I know, dude. I was thinking, like, when I first moved to Thailand, I lived in Chiang Mai for a year. It took me like 5 years to get a routine so closely aligned with Thai culture. Instead, I spent my first year in Chiang Mai eating at Sizzler every day, like a lame, fake poser tourist. But Richard comes to Thailand. He zeroes in on like the main things, right? So
damn, he's an assimilator. He's an assimilator.
That's right. He's got it figured out. He knows what's going on. Not like me, who shows up and just wanders around bumping into walls for the first 5 years like an idiot. So I think we should take lessons from Richard into how to set a routine, a decent, sustainable routine that rewards you culturally and relaxationally and knowledgeably. So it sounds like he's got it figured out.
It sounds like we need to hire him and give advice to our listeners.
First us and then the listeners.
Yeah, that's right.
But Richard is our patron, but I'm going to give him an upgrade. I'm going to say he's our patron, but he's also the Bangkok Podcast patron saint of Bangkok routine.
All right, that works for me.
Because Bangkok is confusing, right? You can get lost here and sort of tread water and spin your wheels for a long, long time. But not Richard, man. He's got a routine.
True that. More power to him.
Right on. Well, thanks, Richard, man. We appreciate your support. We hope that when everything gets back to normal, you can come to Bangkok for the 16th time. And maybe we'll even head to a museum together. You can give us some behind-the-scenes info. And on that same note, actually, Richard, you will be very interested to know that we have a very museum-centric episode coming up soon. So make sure to stay tuned for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. A final thanks to all of our patrons who help keep the show ad-free. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, Bangkok Podcast on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
True that. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can chat with us online, or even reach out to me on Twitter if you want, where I am BKK Greg. So thank you for listening, everyone. Stay safe, wash your hands, stay inside for now. We'll see you back here next week.
Yep. We'll see you next week.
Oh, yeah. And before we jump into it, we should also mention that we just released...